Welcome back to class. My name is McKay Tebbs, and I'm excited to be here with you, teaching you a lesson in the Pro Tools software today. So what we're going to talk about today is Lesson 5, Elastic Audio. And it is such a cool feature, and it's something you definitely want to learn how to use as you're working in Pro Tools. So let's come up with a scenario. Let's say that you have a session going on. You're recording an artist or a band, and you have multiple types of tracks, MIDI tracks and audio tracks, and all of a sudden somebody realizes, oh, this song is too slow. We need to up the tempo by 20 beats here because we're way off. And so you're like, okay, great, well, let's do that. Let's change the tempo. So you do, and what happens? Well, all the MIDI tracks will change tempo just like that, but your audio tracks won't. Because that's kind of how audio is, right? It just stays in that same time. It doesn't necessarily change. But the cool thing is with Elastic Audio, you can change the tempo of your audio tracks. And you can also change the pitch of your audio tracks. In other words, you can treat them just like MIDI tracks, because with MIDI tracks, once you have the MIDI information there, you can transpose it, you can change the tempo of it, and it's not a big deal at all. So with Elastic Audio, you can also do that with audio tracks. So that's what we're going to talk about today, and I'm going to show you how to do that. And here's my screen. So this is the session that we worked out last week in our lesson, and it has that same audio file that I made, which sounds like this. So it's just a drum beat and a guitar riff that I played over the top. So the first thing that we got to do to work within Elastic Audio is we have to enable the track to become an Elastic Audio track. And so you're going to do that right over here. See this little triangle here with the drop down menu? You have a list here of different things you can do, and you come down here to this list that says Elastic Audio. Now within this list, there's different Elastic Audio plugins that you can choose depending on what you're trying to work with. In our case, we're working with a guitar clip, and it's a single instrument all by itself. And so I'm clipping it now. It's one monophonic instrument. Monophonic means one voice or one sound. So for what I'm doing today with this project, that's the plugin I'm going to choose, and that's the one that will work the best. But these other plugins are for other things. So like the polyphonic one, that is for one, like let's say you have a clip that's a loop, and in that clip there's a drum beat, there's a bass line, there's some keyboards, all within one clip. So it's definitely more than one instrument that's being processed. So you'd want to pick this polyphonic plugin for that. The rhythmic one is for drums and percussion. If you're trying to Elastic Audio a drum beat, then you want to pick the rhythmic one. Then monophonic is for a single instrument or a single voice. When you're working with a vocal line, you want to pick the monophonic for that. Vari-speed is kind of an effect that you can add on in post-production, and it mimics the sound of a tape record machines, like in the old days when they recorded with tape, analog tape. You could kind of rock it back and forth. Anyway, it's kind of an effects thing more than what you need most of the time. And then X form is it's kind of the highest quality form of Elastic Audio, and you do that at the very end after you're done editing and coming up with all your tempo changes. When you finally have it just right, you change it from whatever it was to X form to get a higher quality. So we're going to do that today. But for right now, I'm going to click on monophonic, and I'm going to make sure that I have it selected. Once it's selected, you'll see a check mark right next to it letting you know that it's selected. So now I have my track, it's Elastic Audio enabled. So now let's do this. Let's copy my track. I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to paste it right next to itself. So I have two of the same riffs right in a row. And I am also going to come up here to the top where this insertion point is, and I'm going to put a tempo change. So coming up here to the tempo marker, I'm just going to hit this plus sign. So right now, my song's at 120. I'm going to drop it down to 80. And I'm going to put that in right here where this second clip is that I just barely pasted. So the first clip is still playing at 120. But where I just changed the tempo slowed down, right? It slowed down to 80. But what did not happen is my audio clip that I pasted there did not slow down with it, right? So it is still at the 120 tempo, and that's what usually happens when you change tempos in a song. So what you do now to get the clip to change tempo is you right-click on it, and when you right-click, you have this list of things come up, and then there's a setting that says conform to tempo, and all you have to do is click it. And as soon as you do that, you have just barely clicked it to conform with tempo. And so now, if we go back and play it, we should hear it in the new tempo. Now you can definitely tell that it's been slowed down, and you can hear that now in it. But if you're listening closely, you might have thought, oh yeah, that works. Oh, you know what? That didn't work. That didn't work. There are imperfections in it when you do this. So you have it in the right tempo range now, but the transients aren't quite lining up with where the beats are falling. It's pretty close, but now it's time to do a little bit of editing within the clip to make those transients line up where they need to line up. So what we're going to do is highlight the clip that we want to work with, which is this second one right here. And then we come over here. Now, this is your track view selector. Right now it says wave, and I can see all the waveforms of my clips that I'm working on. The waveforms are these squiggly lines that go up and down, right? So I can change that. And what I want to do is change it to a view called warp view. So now I have warp view on, and you can see it right here. I'm still zoomed into it. Actually, I'm going to zoom back out, and I'm going to zoom in this way. If you push these triangles up here, you can zoom in and out of your session really quickly. So I'm going to zoom in so I can really see what I'm working with here. But I'm not going to mess with the first clip. That's still at 120. This is just the 80 clip. Now, when I'm here, what I'm looking at is the transients, and I'm looking to see if they line up with the bars, where the downbeat of the bars are. So for example, this one right here, I'm noticing already that this line right here is not lined up with where the bar line is, because I can see the bar line falling right here. So what I need to do is I need to drag it over so that it will line up. So I'm going to click on it, and I get this double arrow thing. I'm going to click and drag to the right. And I'm in grid mode right now. So you know how in grid mode, it always snaps to wherever the grid was. So now this transient right here is going to line up with that beat. And if I play it, we're going to hear that happen. So now what I can do to get a more accurate rhythmic representation is I can manually drag all of these over and line them up. I don't know if you noticed that. I just dragged this one over, and when I did that, it also drug over the first one. It kind of messed up my first one. And so that can be frustrating. I'm going to Command Z to undo it. So what I need to do before I go through the rest of these event markers is I need to create warp markers. And the warp markers will keep that marker steady and everything before it so that it doesn't change when you change the following event markers. So if you take your grabber tool and double click on it, you change it to become a warp marker, and you see how there's this triangle at the end? So now that marker will stay right where it is, and it won't be affected by what I do after it. So here I'm going to come to this next one. I'm going to drag it over, and it affected everything after it, but it didn't affect everything before this warp marker. So the smaller markers are called event markers. It shows you where something's happening, and then you can create these warp markers to make it stick where you want it to. So let's listen and see what that sounds like. Cool. So we're doing good so far. I'm going to turn this one into a warp marker. So now that one will stay. And I'm scooting over and I see this one's a little off, so I'm going to drag it over. I'm going to create it into a warp marker. Now it's a warp marker. Now I'm going to listen and see where my next one's going to be. Okay, it's going pretty good so far. I noticed that this warp marker is pretty much already in place. I think I might just leave it where it is. But this one right here, I can tell it's late. It's not on the beat where it needs to be. Let me listen one more time and double check. Okay, yeah, so I'm gonna take this guy and scoot it over. And then, oh yeah, I like the sound of that. So I'm gonna create a warp marker right there now. So now that one will stay. Now let's listen to the rest of it and see how it goes. I can already see that this one's off right here, so I'll drag it over, create a warp marker, and then this one's also off just a little bit, so I'll create a warp marker right there. And let me hear what that sounds like before I do anything else. Oh yeah, that sounded pretty good, but I think I do want to line up this last one too and put it right on the beat. And create a warp there. Okay, and I think that should do it. Maybe I'll just line this one up too real quick. Okay. And here's how it all sounds. Okay, so yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. I think that sounds like it's in the beat. So to recap, what we just barely learned with that is, yes, you can conform to tempo with your selected audio clip, but after you do that, it's not necessarily going to sound like everything lines up with the beats. So you do have to manually go in and line up the transients with the beats according to what you hear with your ears. So you kind of got to use your ear for that. But it's not too hard to do. And after you do that, it's set and it's ready to go. Now, really quick, I just want to show you something else you can do with this warping stuff. I'm going to come to my previous clip to do it right here. Some of you are into film scoring, or you want to be into film scoring, and a lot of what you do in Pro Tools is you're trying to line up the music with a video file. And so it's important to know that sometimes you can take a whole audio file and you can drag the whole thing in or out. And they have these two options called telescope view and accordion view. Yeah, you can drag it back and forth like that. So they have these different ways of dragging it, and you have to create these warp spots in different locations, and then you can drag it back and forth depending on how you want to do that. But anyway, you can make it fit your video file. I guess that's the point I'm getting to, is you can also make the whole clip a little longer or a little shorter depending on the size of your video file that you're using right there. Oh, after you've set all your markers right there, then it's time to quantize the markers. So just like when you're working with MIDI, you can quantize it, and when you do that, it tightens everything up and puts it right where it is. So after you get these markers set, you want to do that as well with the elastic audio. It works best after the markers are set, because if you quantize it before you have the markers there, it's still not going to be totally right. But I just barely did that, so now I can get this selected. I can come up here to event operations, quantize, and I know that I have some 16th notes in there that I was playing, so I'm going to change the grid here to be 16th note grid, and then I'm going to click apply. And when I do that, it applied. So now if we listen back to the track, okay, so now if we did that if we listen back, it's even tighter than it was before. So it even, it can, after you set the markers, it can tell or read where all the beats should be falling in between the beats, all the subdivisions. And so it can line up the rest of the transients with those subdivisions that they need to be lined up with. So you can quantize it at that point. And then what happens if you do all this work and now we're down at 80 beats per minute, and then we realize, wait a minute, we actually want to be back up to 90 beats per minute. That was too slow. Oh, now I got to do all that over again. Actually, you don't. But what you have to do is you can change the tempo and it will follow your tempo change if you do this. And what we're going to do is we are going to change the time base of the track. So over here, there's a list that pops up. You click on this triangle. It's the same place we found Elastic Audio, but you come up here to track time base. Audio tracks are always recorded in samples. They're sample-based tracks. MIDI tracks are always recorded in ticks. They're tick-based tracks. So if we change this to be ticks, then it will treat this track as if it's a MIDI track, which means when we change the tempo, it will change again. So right now it's at 80. So now I'm gonna double click on that and I'm gonna just change it to 95. Okay, now I'll push play. Hold on, 95 is way too slow. Let me try this again, and this time I'm gonna change it up to 170. So anyway, isn't that cool? So you can change the tempos and it can reflect those tempo changes after you're working with it in Elastic Audio like this. And you just do that just by double clicking wherever the tempo change or put a new tempo change in, and then it will reflect that for you. Okay, and the last thing we're going to talk about is changing pitches. So just like with MIDI, you can transpose and change pitches. You can also do that with audio, which is weird to think. You could record a whole vocal section in the key of A, and then after you record that, you could then transpose it to be in the key of B or key of whatever key. I mean, it's actually a 2-octave limit. So you can change the pitches 2 octaves above or 2 octaves below where you have it. So that's a pretty big range of where you can change notes to. But before we do that, let's get the best quality possible. Maybe you've noticed that the sound quality does change a little bit, especially when we slow things down. You can kind of hear the warbliness in there a little bit as it's slowed. So at this point, it's a good idea for us to get the best sounding quality on this clip by coming back to our Elastic Audio menu and by changing it to X form. So this is the highest quality plugin for Elastic Audio, and it will make it sound the best. But you only want to do it when it's all the way done, because when you're in a real big session with lots of tracks, this takes a lot of time to process this. So you wouldn't want to do it in X form and then say, oh, wait, actually that event was off. I had to fix it. Or, oh, wait, that's the wrong tempo. Because it's just going to waste a lot of your time, because it takes a lot of time to process when you're in a big session. So anyway, I've finished all that. The timing, the tempo, everything's right where I want it. So I'm going to hit X form, rendered only. And so now I have the highest quality of it. And so now I can then start working on changing the pitch. I think I'm going to change my view back from warp view just back to waveform, so I don't accidentally click on any of those events that were there. And now, also, when you're changing pitch, you do have to be in X form. Have that selected as your Elastic Audio, because it for some reason it won't work with the other one. So I have X form selected as my Elastic Audio. So now I'm going to change the pitch. Let's right click on the clip. And when you right click, you get this menu coming up. We already did the conform to tempo command right here when we were trying to originally get it to the tempo. Right above that is something called Elastic Properties, and that's where you want to go. So right click Elastic Properties, and then that opens up this window. And in this window, at the bottom of it, you see it says pitch shift. Right now, 0 semi. Semi means semitones, and in musical jargon, that's a half step. That is, I mean, that's a good way to put it. It's a half step. It's one pitch away from where you are. There's 12 pitches, and so one semitone is a half step. Anyway, actually, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to keep this one where it is, and I'm going to copy it, paste it right next to itself over here. Okay, and so this is the one I'm going to work with. I'm going to change the pitch on this one. Let's transpose it up a minor third. So to transpose it up a minor third, I'd have to go up 3 semitones. And let's see what that does for us. And then, oh, by the way, you type in the number, and after you type the number in, push return or enter. And then you see what happened there when I did that. So now if we come over here and play this next one, it's up a minor third from where the last one was. So let's go back to the last one and hear that transition. Here's the last one. Yeah, it's right there. Okay, and then here's the new one. Anyway, so the new one's up a minor third from where the last one was. Anyway, so it's cool. You can transpose it. You can do that with vocal lines. So imagine having a singer sing the chorus of the song, and then the singer has to leave and go, and then you're working with the tracks and you copy that, and then you're like, I want some harmonies in there, some vocal harmonies. So let me copy that and then put it in a new track right underneath, and then transpose that up a third, you know. And then you can immediately get these background harmonies in your songs, and the vocalist doesn't necessarily have to sing every one of those harmonies. Maybe you want to do that too. I mean, both ways could work fine. Let's do this one more time though. I'm going to copy it again. Actually, I'm going to copy the first one. So copy the first one, and I'm going to paste it right there. Let's do it again, but this time let's transpose it or change the key. So I've got it selected, and keep in mind you have to be in X form. Keep in mind it has to be in ticks, not samples, and you also have to make sure that elastic audio is enabled on the track when you're doing this stuff. So I've got this last one selected. I'm going to come up here to the event menu. I'm going to go to event operations. This is the same place we found Quantize a minute ago, but now we're going to go to transpose. And when we do that, we get this menu. The event operations menu opens up. We've got transpose here. I've already selected 2 octaves from something I did a set a minute ago, so I'm going to keep it there. I'm going to transpose it up 2 octaves and see what that sounds like. And it just applied it. I'm going to X out. Let's hear that one. Tell you what, I like it. That's pretty cool. Isn't it cool? You transpose up 2 octaves and suddenly it sounds like a synthesizer. But I think I want to put a tempo change in there. I think I want to bring it from 80 up to like, how about 150? So faster than it was for sure. Oh yeah, that's cool. Okay, so total we have 4 clips of the same musical idea. The first clip was our slow clip at 120. The second clip, or no, that was our medium fast clip. That's where we started. And then the second clip was slowed down to 80. The third clip was transposed up a minor third. And then this fourth clip is transposed up 2 octaves from the original clip, and the tempo picks up. So let's see what that all sounds like together, just for fun. All right. So anyway, that's what you can do with Elastic Audio, and that's kind of how it works. So have fun playing with it this week, and please let me know if you have any questions about it, and send me an email if you ever want to talk about anything, and we can talk about it. So anyway, have a good day.